I read this book. Well, I'm not quite finished it. It's called Neuromancer. And I had no idea what it was when I bought it. I actually just really liked the cover and the title. And I found out the guy who wrote it is from Vancouver, or lives in Vancouver now. I don't know where he was originally from. I mean, it makes sense. Vancouver's a nice place to live. And there's a lot of pretty big arts community in Vancouver, which is great. And so the thing about this book I found out is a lot of people claim that it is the inspiration or inspired The Matrix, the movie. And I didn't know that reading or buying when I bought the book, but I found out after about 20 to 40 pages in that yes, this is in fact very much like The Matrix. Although I haven't seen all of the Matrix movies. I've only really seen the first one. I've seen the other ones, but I was not really paying much attention. And I've seen some of the other ones, I should say. And this book isn't exactly the same as The Matrix. So if you're expecting when you read it to read a book that follows the storyline of The Matrix, it doesn't really. And what's interesting about this book, I found, is the same thing that not going into it not knowing that it is The Matrix, or say like this book came out and the Matrix movie hadn't been made yet. So you would read the book as if, and this is how I was going into it, because I had no idea it was a Matrix style movie or so closely based on The Matrix or the Matrix movie idea. But the reason why I liked it is almost the exact same reason why I didn't like it, which is strange. I know it's a really strange contradiction, but because you can't really understand what's going on. It just switches into this moment where they're doing something completely crazy. But it's the same reason why I like it, because all of a sudden it just switches, and they're doing something in the Matrix, but you really have no idea what's going on, which is interesting. But there's this overall feel of the book that's so seedy and dark and just low class, like, people and thievery and all kinds of drugs and medical pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. And it's got this overwhelming feeling about just underground society, or and black market stuff and all kinds of things like that. And it's really dark. Or I don't want to sound too much like a reviewer, and have science fiction of exceptional texture and vision. Gibson opens up a new genre finally. So it's kind of punky, it's punk. It's supposedly what do they call that? Cyberpunk. So it definitely fits that genre, and I like the mood or the tone of the book a lot. And just that they're kind of all over the place throughout the world. They're traveling a lot, and it's really interesting, the feel of the book. Although my concern is, it's not really a concern, but my feeling is that they don't really do a whole lot. There's a lot of excessive violence, but it's not really built up to the point where someone dies and it's this glorious problem for the book. And it's just oh, another one got popped off today, or just randomly, it's not really an essential thing to the plot in the book. It's just random deaths, people die. And the thing about it is, it's so unclear what's actually happening that you aren't sure whether it's true or not, or if it's someone just saying this happened, because everyone's trying to coerce someone and manipulate everyone, and you never know who's on whose side, and everyone's basically a criminal and you can't trust anyone. So the thing about it is, coming near the end, I haven't finished it just because I made this review because I didn't want to spoil the end, if there is one. But I don't think it's going to be some like glorious ending that ties everything together. And the other thing is I didn't find the book overly philosophical. The actual Matrix movie was quite philosophical. I found it a little hokey, the kind of philosophy in the Matrix movie. But that being said, it is way more philosophical than this book, whether it, is related to the movie or not, we don't really know. Although when you look up the Matrix on Wikipedia, it says this is a major influence. But William Gibson, the writer of this, doesn't really claim to be associated with the movie in any way. Although the genre has taken off, I think he inspired overall genre of cyberpunk movies. So in the 90s, there were a lot of cyberpunk movies, and at the time, with the internet, it seemed like an unusual thing, or it didn't seem feasible. But now, coming back to what I was saying before, is that a lot of stuff that happens, it does remind me very much of what life is like now, in a way, but it's kind of glorified to the sense that makes it dramatic or melodramatic even, for book purposes. Like, I can't think of an example exactly from the book right now, but I was thinking about it the other day, and it does remind me of, almost in like an alluded type of way, to what life is like now, and but it also is more specific to a certain type of people, or a certain type of person who would be involved in like criminal underground behavior and stuff like that, because the book does revolve around that type of character. So if that's what you're interested in, I mean, it doesn't seem like, to someone who just lives a normal life, is something that really exists, but it could, but I think it's more of an alluded type of way than actual, literally word for word or verbatim type of comparison to what life is like now. And I get the feeling that this is sometime a little bit farther in the future than 2000s, early 2000s or 20s, because they're talking about, at one point he talks about CDs as being like totally antiquated, like an antique CD, and people still use CDs. Like, it's not that old, really. So, and when he wrote this, I'm sure it was new technology at the time that was maybe just being released. So all I can say is I think it is a bit farther in the future, more like, I don't know what to say, because it's kind of somewhere between like 12 Monkeys and like Blade Runner type time, which is now, and then a bit in the future. So all I can say is it's close. I don't think it's exactly like exact spot on getting the time right ahead of time, like writing in the 80s and then predicting exactly how it would be. But overall, I really enjoy this book. I enjoy reading it and the tone of the book and his voice, the narrator of the book, and it's exceptional. I probably will read a few more William Gibson books because I really enjoy the way he writes. And I don't normally read a lot of new writers or writers who are still living. Not for any particular reason, just because I like to read a lot of classics and people can relate to them a little bit more, because a lot of people have read them over the years. So it makes it better for conversation and being applicable to people in conversation when talking about books. So I try to read a bit of both now, and this particular writer, I feel like, is very, very, very exceptional and outstanding in a genre that doesn't really stand out as being an overly remarkable one for the time period, but now is in fact very, very popular. So I found that really, really kind of cool that I just so happened to like the cover. And then actually, it's really bright, so if I'm squinting, but yeah, it's a pretty good book. How long is that? 10 minutes? Oh, okay, that's not bad. I did that last one was like extremely long. Check that out. There's a few more books on the list. I'll try to review them. If I don't really have anything to say about them, I won't review them. But if you can, like and subscribe the videos, and check out some more of my videos if you can.